Welcome to She Blaze, where we're bringing you cannabis culture from a woman's point of view. And as always, here to elevate the cannabis industry. I'm one of your hosts, Ice Dawson, cannabis socialite.
She Blaze.
And I am Dasheeda Dawson, the weed head.
Hi, sis.
Hey, sis.
Hey, sis. On today's episode of She Blaze, we're going to talk about all the layoffs happening, lawsuits that's spilling cannabis tea, and some of the biggest lessons we learned in the cannabis industry.
Woo woo. Okay, well, this is going to be a juicy one. I just want y'all to know we are spilling a lot of tea because that's what lawsuits do. But let's first start things with the high of the week. I want to kick things off with my Cannabis Regulators of Color Coalition published paper and panel hosted by Ohio State University. It was just exciting to see more than 300 people registered to find out more about the Safe Banking Act. The paper, Not a Safe Bet, Equitable Access to Cannabis Banking, really breaks down some of the issues that we've been seeing with the way that safe banking has been marketed as a piece of legislation versus what it actually has. This paper can be downloaded from SSRN. We'll drop the link. But basically, we've been in the top 10 for multiple categories for download, and it continues. I'm really excited. Shout out to Kat Packer, Rafi Crockett, Shalene Title, and of course myself and entire Cannabis Regulators of Color Coalition for producing a pretty freaking awesome paper.
Yes.
The bottom line, biggest takeaway, if you don't know nothing else, increased access is not the same as equitable access.
Okay, and that's true tea. So on to my high of the week, which is like talking about a celebrity now coming into the cannabis industry, which is Big Freedia, the queen of bounce. And, I'm from the South on the low, so, I know how to do the biggity bounce all day, and I love bounce music. But this is just a music trailblazer coming into the cannabis industry. She's sparking a line with the LGBTIA plus. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Dispensary, and they are introducing her line called Royal Bud. It is California based, so I would love all my Cali people, check it out. Let me know how it is, because when they come up in here, they be bringing the fabulous honey. I be having the best on the Pride weekend.
This is true. Yeah. I mean, we are seeing a proliferation of more LGBT representation in the industry, and I'm just excited about that. But I do think we need to see how this is going to be rolled out.
Yes. And I might not be able to come to California with all the things happening for a while, so I will be checking all the reviews, all the Reddits on it, because I'm curious.
Me too. I'm very curious.
I'm like, what Big Freedia know about the weed now?
Apparently, Royal Bud is supposed to be the hottest, so we'll see.
We will see.
But that's a good high of the week. Yes. It's always interesting to see new people entering the industry, hopefully with the best intentions. However, we got to get into these hot topics.
Because they're good.
A lot, yes.
They're good. We went in. So our first hot topic is talking about Weed World. Now, y'all already know how I feel about Weed World, okay? Because they stuff don't have no weed, okay? It probably don't even have no hemp. True tea. They need to go ahead and let's see some COA, certificates of analysis, and see what's really in them little lollipops, because it feel like nothing. And so basically this past week on Tuesday and Wednesday, because they first announced that they seized 20 trucks, they actually seized 19 trucks. So the New York City Police Department seized Weed World trucks that we oftentimes see throughout 42nd Street, 34th Street, big touristy areas, basically. And they had many complaints, 311s, and this ended up coming the day after they paid some on their parking tickets, which was $200,000. They're saying that their parking tickets and fines are upwards of $500,000, you guys.
So yeah, it is actually taking the industry a little bit by storm because it's happening in New York, where the backdrop is this mayor that has been talking about, come here, smoke your weed. We're not going to, be going after people in the industry, and we want to encourage. And the state has the right law and the right bill. There's new application that's going to be opening up specifically for those who have been justice impacted. The media and a lot of people within the industry have been spinning this somehow as proof that that's not necessarily true. And I wanted to dispel that myth right away. First and foremost, if you follow me on social media, you already know how I feel. WeWorld is not the legacy market, honey. It is not the market of consumers and suppliers that we've been seeing and knowing for decades in the New York City market. They are trucks that have been around mostly since 2018. However, the owner says they've been around for decades. Honestly, I've only ever seen them on 42nd Street or Penn Station, 34th Street area, Madison Square Garden, again, where there's a lot of tourists. Yeah. Other thing I want to point out is that they didn't get in trouble for cannabis. It's not about what they were selling. They didn't get their truck seized because they're a cannabis industry. If anything, their loud ass marketing got their truck seized because they have
they parking tickets got their truck seized because they in Manhattan.
But let me finish my point that their marketing is what draws attention. Somebody can say, I saw that truck in the fire lane. Yes, I remember that truck over here. Or yes, that truck's been parked there for 30,000 days. When your truck is like inconspicuous, maybe you wouldn't get somebody to actually say that. They don't have, inconspicuous trucks. There's that. Plus, to your point, they have a bunch of tickets. They've been flagrant. And, he is responsible as a CEO, but I think you were uncovering some of the way the businesses work. That is why there's a little of like, he didn't know that they were getting all these tickets. He didn't know that they didn't have their correct permits. You're supposed to have a vending permit. This doesn't have anything to do with cannabis. It's like, just to do business in New York City, there's expectations, and they weren't meeting them. To the tune of $500,000 in parking tickets, which, by the way, in some states get you a warrant for your arrest. That's like Jersey. And it's interesting that we've now conflated the story to be all about cannabis, and that, we can't trust that New York's going to do what New York's been saying they're going to do.
Well, for the record, what I was trying to say is, because I'm a little salty about New York and their parking tickets, because I literally got 2 parking tickets back to back, is that Manhattan don't play. In Brooklyn, You could get away with parking in front of fire hydrant for a little bit, especially overnight, because parking is like very limited in the cities. We're on an island. I'm saying that Manhattan is one of the only boroughs that really, really presses parking tickets. Like literally, whether you're parked, even if you weren't, I do believe, even if you weren't you weren't with the cannabis actual like promotion and stuff of the trucks, I still believe you would have got that many parking tickets, because New York want that money and they don't play. And it's not because of weed, y'all. I swear, as many parking tickets as I have had to pay in the last 2 to 3 months is not because of the cannabis. It's because you need to be having your licensed event and you got to park in the right areas.
I think you're right. Not parking in the right areas is always going to be something. But when somebody can identify your vehicle without any real issue, it only makes it more egregious.
Oh, yeah, because they're going to give you even more fines. After 15 minutes, they're going to fine you. And now they get a call, they're going to fine you again after they've already fined you. So basically, the owner was saying that, it got out of hand because contractors did not pay. They were not telling people about the tickets that they were getting, but, they are going to fix it over time. And that this is just kind of what happens when you have a fleet of trucks operating within a very congested city. He also said that they are not selling cannabis, that they are selling hemp.
Well, one, hemp is cannabis, so maybe they're not selling THC rich cannabis. They're selling quote unquote CBD rich cannabis, but even that is questionable. We don't get COAs. I don't really know because I haven't ever shopped. I've been curious to look at the little menu, but no. We've never gotten any of my coin. You're a little bit more adventurous than me.
Oh, they ain't never gotten none of my money?
Oh, okay.
I already don't rock with them because they was at a conference, honey, and they got some suspicious contractors, okay? And they got mad because I said I don't want none of their little nasty candies playing the game for their little nasty candies. And I said, girl, that candy don't got nothing in it. And I guess they heard me, and child, my phone went missing soon after that.
Allegedly,
that's all she wrote.
That's all she wrote. Well, I hope they are paying their parking tickets, and I hope that they return your phone if they have it. But no, seriously, this is not the legacy market that we talk about. I don't care if they participate. I'm not saying anything that we got to keep them out. But what I do want to keep them out of is the narrative that they are representing the legacy market, that they are an example of people who are working and trying to integrate but not being accepted, or they're being targeted. Do a better job. Don't embarrass us. That's really what it comes down to.
Well,
don't
he said it's
us.
not real weed, and as far as I'm concerned, this is like cannabis appropriation.
It is real weed because guess what also is under the Office of Cannabis Management now?
Well, that's because they really don't have no hemp in it either. Yeah. It's probably like hemp seeds, child.
I guess so, but I mean, they definitely are making mostly manufactured goods. They sell a lot of the edibles. And it would be funny if it was edibles with just hemp seed oil, which is good for you, but it isn't CBD rich, okay?
No.
It isn't cannabinoid rich at all.
They have an industrial kitchen, and that's how they're making their candies. But let me stop because I'm going to keep going and shading them because obviously I still feel a certain type of way. So let me go to a company that I actually like, and I feel bad reporting these news, honey. And the news is Weedmaps takes a big old hit. Yes, they have let go of over 600 employees, 10% of their staff, which is, that over 600. And it's just really unfortunate. They're saying it's due to what's happened in the economic state of our actual country, right? Because of COVID and recessions and all these rabbit holes of things. We do know Weedmaps is public. We know Weedmaps is the leading cannabis company that's actually ancillary as far, and they're consumer facing and on the back end. So it's really sad to hear that they've had to let go some employees, and because they sponsored everything, powered everything, child. They still powering stuff.
I think the good news is that they are probably still committed to equity if they're still powering it, right? In those things. I think ultimately a lot of these companies pull back their money on their equity initiatives. And so shout out to Weedmaps for not necessarily doing that. But yeah, I also just want to add a little bit of flavor for people to understand what's happened really with the industry. And it is definitely sales are down, but they are down to a unexpected bump that we got from COVID in the cannabis space. 2020 and 2021 were years that we did not expect to have based on the original projections coming out of 2019. But after looking at it, and again, I'm a numbers person, if you look at the projections and the trajectory from 2019, where we are tracking right now is where we thought we would be in 2019. However, it is less than, of course, what we did last year and the year before. So people started ramping up. And I do think, I don't know if I would say Weedmaps was one of them doing it like crazy, but they did have a lot of hiring. Yeah. And we have in business called for last in, first out, LIFO. And so when you are doing layoffs, typically the last people in are the first out. And then the next other area you look is where you're just seeing low productivity, and can you optimize, because you can only do it with one person who's doing it great versus three, right? But yeah, I think that many people went and they overproduced, overcultivated, overbought as they saw this big bump and kept thinking it was going to only grow from there. And we gotta get in our come to Jesus moment where we're getting back to the steady growth that we were having year over year, just not this like rapid, oh my God, where did this year come from? And it was everybody.
Yeah, you're right about that. I also am curious to see who will be at the next with your first in, last out kind of thing, or first, last in.
Last in, first out, LIFO. L-I, last in, first out, F-O, LIFO.
Yeah, I'm curious to see who will be at the next cannabis conferences that they have, B2B, C2B. You know me, I'm all about
I think MJ BizCon is like the next big thing. We'll see. A lot of people will have different titles, honey.
A lot of people have different titles. Are we going to MJ BizCon this year?
I'm not sure, but it's going to be interesting because a lot of people are going to be with different companies, have different titles, or they're going to be a lot more consultants.
Yeah, well, they might also, Weedmaps might be transitioning that money to their legal side because they got a couple lawsuits happening in California that we may report on. I don't know.
Okay,
I want a little bit more tea about it, but yeah, Weedmaps, we talked about it before, but right now in the news, basically, they're saying that they went back to some of the old ways of not having the official license number on their information and whatever. California state just put that lawsuit on them. So I'm feeling bad. Not much information, not much details, but these layoffs might also be transitioning money to legal, honey. And speaking of transitioning some money, honey, we are going to talk about USCC. Woo-wee. Yes, so the U.S. Cannabis Council, that is a lobbying firm in Washington, D.C., is through some transitions and layoffs as well. ACAM, which is the Association for Cannabis, Health, Equity, and Medicine, resigned from the USCC, which really made a splash on the scene because it was one of the first lobbying things that was like, we're putting social equity first. We put in decriminalization, legalization, access for all, no discrimination over here. We're putting that first on the heel. And so, unfortunately, that is not what happened according to according to ACAM. Okay. So basically, in an open letter, the president of ACAM, which is Dr. Olga Obi, informed her that the leadership position was just not creating an equitable values in the driven cannabis industry, which was the lead mission. She said that they recognize the increasing influence of corporate cannabis priorities over the council that has continually overshadowed or siloed equity-focused recommendations.
The ACAM letter was, they said what they said. I mean, when I posted it on my Twitter, I said, listen, they said what they said. And honestly, when you describe USCC as the lobbying organization, that's not kind of what they are. That's what they do. They do lobby. I guess it is a lobbying organization in that regard. But the way they came out marketing themselves when they first launched was this membership organization that was going to unite the voices of cannabis, right? On the foundation of social equity and restorative justice. That was on their website. And I definitely think that
that's fancy PR term for we lobbying on Washington with y'all coin, honey.
Yes, you're probably right. But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely eager to learn a little bit more about what USCC is going to do to, I guess, dispel this allegation that that's not what they're doing. But ACAM said what they said, and they were also very clear that they did some important things with USCC. They do have influence on the Hill. They have all of the top biggest cannabis companies in the world members, as well as what ACAM was, which ACAM was an equity member. They put them down as an honorary member, and I guess that means they didn't have to pay these astronomical fees to be a member.
Oh, y'all want to know who the members are? Okay, so we looking at Curaleaf, Canopy Growth, Crohn's Group, Cresco Labs, Columbia Care, Aurora Cannabis, Ascend Wellness, and those are the big names. So that means they bought the leading titles. Okay.
Absolutely. But I think that that's where I'm like, I'm not confused about what USCC was doing here. I guess ACAM, we always think that we can inject and, make change. And I do think ACAM was a change agent. There were a lot of good position statements that came out of USCC. And I absolutely saw the influence of understanding cannabis equity, understanding health equity, and other things that are more ACAM like core competency.
Yes. And in response to the letter, USCC said we are a big tent coalition and our members hold a range of views and we are steadfastly committed to ending cannabis prohibition, expunging cannabis charges, and creating an equitable and value-driven cannabis industry.
Well, listen. They said what they said, so it means that you're probably going to have to do a little bit better, USCC. That's my thought. I noticed that they didn't mention social equity, and I noticed that they backed into, we have different diverse opinions, but that is not, again, the way in which they launch. I feel like in the wake of George Floyd in 2020, a lot of these big companies were like, how is there a way we can push the narrative on this faster and get federal legalization? We thought we had momentum because we thought, you have the majority. But what I've seen lately myself is that there isn't momentum on the comprehensive. So they're just willing to push, safe. But that's why CRCC looked for solutions. It was never the case that we were willing to support it as is. And USCC has always been supportive of safe as is because they want to pass something.
USCC is supportive of all these bills, but on to what the layoff part of our hot topic is. Child, they said that, and then they let go of their CEO or founding even CEO, Steve Hawkins. And I just feel, bad because they did lay him off 2 days later. It wasn't even 48 hours.
I'm not sure, again, whether or not we can call it a layoff. We don't know what happened. We know that it feels coincidental, and we're looking at ACAM resigns, and then their CEO is out. Now, whether he resigned, whether he was laid off, it's still unclear.
Yes, it's unclear to the media of why he is no longer their CEO, honey. I guess it's, allegedly, I'm putting my own spin on it. Call it telephone. But they did announce their new CEO in the same breath, which is Khadija Tribble, who is a senior vice president of corporate social responsibility at Curaleaf. And it's only on the interim basis. But, like Republican and Democrat, same bird, different wings.
Well, we're going to have to watch. We're going to have to see what Khadijah's going to do. I think it's interesting that USCC keeps launching with CEOs that have another job. Not saying that you can't do multiple jobs, because I've certainly been in a situation where I had to check people because you don't know what it's like having multiple jobs. So you homeschooling a child and working in Fortune 100 corporate America as a senior executive. But yeah, I definitely think that this is an example because Steve was part-time MPP president and then the part-time, president of USCC. And it feels like here we have Khadija, who is responsible for the largest cannabis company's corporate social responsibility program. And she's going to also be the part-time interim CEO of USCC as well. Another thing you should know is that Curaleaf, as you said, is a member of USCC already. You also know that Curaleaf is part of that executive committee. So she's not new to USCC. It doesn't seem like unusual as a pick.
No, it's not unusual, but we know in this game of chess that every move should be strategically seen. Yes. And this was a very strategic move, USCC. Bravo.
Well, we will see how this all plays out. I look forward to following along with the story because I know there's going to be more to come. I'll just say that they got Khadija, they lost Steve, but also a lot of people don't know that Tahir Johnson is no longer the director of social equity for USCC as well. The Cannabis Business Times basically made a correction on that, and it did surprise a lot of people in the industry.
Well, honey child, I can't speak to that, but what I can speak to is this next hot topic, hot topic number 3, which is all about the lawsuits happening, honey. And New York, New York is cannabis in New York is getting real, you guys. Like, you know, in the past, we talked about a lot about California, a lot about Nevada, Arizona, but the Green Coast over here is heating up, and hopefully they won't, like, you know, burn no buds. I was trying to make a funny.
Well, they're all sharks, so you should be worried about people getting their heads and their necks chomped off, because that, honey, is what I feel like is happening in New York.
Well, dang, okay.
Just being real. They
out for blood, honey, blood.
Listen, and the thing is, let the sharks bite up each other, because this, you know, leaves us a little bit better of an ecosystem. But that's what I'm feeling with this Ascend-Medmen thing. And Ascend, as in Ascend Wellness, right? As in a member of USCC.
Yeah.
Okay, just check it.
Okay, yes. Well, what is happening right now is that there was a bunch of lawsuits, and then they called off a merger after going to court to put the merger back on. Crazy, right? So let's go into it. Basically, Men Enterprises, their New York division, wanted to go into a merger with Ascend Wellness Holding. And that was February 2021. So a little bit more than a year ago. A year and some change ago. So basically in the agreement, Ascend was supposed to acquire 86% of Men's New York market area. That they're investing $35 million in cash. They were issuing a certain amount of debt that they were going to be willing to pay off. They also did a down payment of $4 million to get the investment rolling as far as the merger. And they would acquire one of the 10 licenses that Men has to distribute through the industry. So, and this is a vertically integrated license, I believe. In New York.
Yes. There are 10 licenses in New York, and Men has 1. So I just want to make sure it's clear that Men doesn't have 10 and that Ascend gets to use 1. There's only 1 to be had.
Yes, but it is vertically integrated. So, and we know that when it's vertical, how them fees and them time roll up, it feel like 10 licenses.
It does. It's very expensive to hold on to a vertically integrated license.
Yeah, because all the times expire at different times, but that's a whole different number topic. Well, child, this merger has been going good. I mean, they heard about they actually got approved for the companies to merge in December 2021. So it's looking real good for us in wellness. And they even came out the day before the new year to say, hey, this deal, this merge is definitely going through. So that Men store you see on 5th, honey, that was about to be a Ascend Wellness store, child. And, you know, they had the 8.5 right there ready to pay Men. Men said, not so fast. January 3rd, they said, we backing out of this deal.
Wow. Yes, that's when the drama really starts. And like, this getting good now.
So the true tea is that they backed out of the deal and they didn't want to do it. They was like, we still taking our license, but we out of here. Anyway, basically, there's no explanation really why until Ascend Wellness goes to court, goes to the New York Supreme Court and said, they can't back out of this. They have to merge. We don't even want our money back. We want our agreement back. And that's when they started spilling all the tea about, Men started spilling all the tea about Ascend. So basically, they said that allegedly they were under influence in New York to be able to obtain the agreement to merge. They're saying that allegedly there was this big fundraiser, and a lot of the executives attended this fundraiser for a very New York prominent official. You could look at the article yourself, check that description box, because you ain't gonna catch me, child. And that, which all of a sudden 2 weeks later led to them being able to approve this merger, because they could have approved it a little while longer, a little bit before. And they decided after this fundraiser they was going to approve it. So that's what they threw down in court or whatever. And they was like, you better check their travel receipts, check their locations, because they doing it.
Who's they? Medmen or Ascend?
Ascend. Ascend. Well, Ascend Wellness allegedly went to a very, a very prominent New York officials fundraiser. And there was a few executives, and they're saying that after they went to the fundraiser, 2 weeks later, they got approval for the merger after waiting a while to get approval for the merger.
See, the reason why I'm jokingly saying, like, who's they? Is like when two sharks are going after each other, you don't know which one you should pick to separate. When two animals are going after each other, you don't know which one to pick.
Let them
They're
die.
literally ripping each other to shreds. So Medmen is interesting that they would even call foul play, because Medmen been caught up in so much foul-ish in the industry. It is literally the pot calling the kettle black. That is like the perfect example of it. So they did this, but it's all Clash of the Titans shady things that no real small entities ever have a chance. They're playing with $8.5 million. Like these are $13 and $8.50 actually.
Right.
And so it's a little annoying even here when we literally are struggling to get people of color who are much, much, much less resourced to get in the industry, and they over here having a Clash of the Titans fight with basically Medmen saying, oh, they used their influence to actually force us into a deal that we made because we just wanted to use it to raise more money, but then back out of the deal.
Right.
And we've done this in so many other states. That's why we know.
Right.
To be honest.
Right.
It's just I can't. I mean,
and it's and these are also public companies too. Like, so Medmen have went public, and so there's one of those things, and basically that's what it says, that they're saying they having a case of seller's remorse. And that, Medmen needs to uphold itself, because, like, at the end of the day, we've been going over this for a year. Well, then now the merger is off.
Listen, I am aggravated because I think what doesn't make sense is it feels like Ascend didn't want to give up the merger, because who wants to give up a New York license? And last year, after New York legalized, which happened March 31st, right? And you're talking about this was on from February, right? So the initial merger, it went through, or they shook hands, not thinking that New York was going to legalize for a couple of years, I think. That was still while we had former Governor Cuomo. But then universe provided. Sorry, I get real. Gotta take the church with the MRTA, but then eventually we got what we were supposed to get in New York, okay? And now Ascend was like racing to close the deal, because what used to be worth probably a little bit smaller amount in terms of Medmen's license is now worth a lot more. And Medmen, being Medmen, of course, know that too, and they was trying to be shady and back out. And so things start going left after New York legalized.
Yeah.
To me, it is very clear that the scrapping and the teeth came out once we saw New York legalize, almost a whole year. Some would say 18 months before we expect it to happen.
Basically, that's what happened. And Ascend said y'all could keep y'all little baby license because y'all done had it revoked in Virginia and California. Okay, y'all done been sued by a number of employees, and y'all little stock, that thing before we was merging, that thing was only 2 pennies, child. So they was like, you could keep your little baby license,
your baby New York license. I find that to be a little condescending, Ascend, because it's still a vertically integrated license in New York, and that sounds like them being a little bit of a sore loser.
Yeah, they said keep your baby license. We're gonna focus on Ohio. Okay, we're gonna focus on Midwest, like the Casas areas and the Ori's areas, and we're gonna get it that way. And Medmen was like, okay. So,
well, I think Medmen is definitely going to still wind up looking for the highest bidder on this new stuff, because I'll be honest, their brand is trash in New York, and nobody is going to shop a Medmen store for real, except for the same tourist that is shopping Weed World.
Yeah, right, exactly. But all I'm saying is, Ascend said, if you really want to see my political power, check me out on Ohio. That way we can make the licenses process even
easier. No, you're right. I mean, I think that when you look at where Ascend said they were going to be focused, they're focused in places where there isn't any equity baked in. They're not, they probably thought when they acquired the license in February of 2021, based on where the former Governor Cuomo was placed in the CRTA, it would have given the current medical licenses in New York, those 10 ROs, registered organizations, first dibs. And that is not what the Office of Cannabis Management in New York is doing. They're not getting first dibs. We could already have weed, I guess, in these adult use stores if that is what they did. And they said, no, we're going to open the market with the people who are most harmed. New York has arrested more people than anybody else in the entire United States, more Black and brown people than anybody else in the entire United States. And so this market is going to look like the market does in New York. And I appreciate that. And I feel like that's Ascend's uncertainty.
Well, take your coin to Ohio, boo. And with that being said, let's go into the main topic.
Oh my God, this has been a long day of big companies making big mistakes, big moves, big layoffs.
Yes. And so when people are like, I'm trying to find sponsorship, nobody wants to sponsor anything, it's because, honey, all their money is going to legal, child. Okay. It's not going to marketing. It's not going to social equity. Shit, it barely could go to license and regulations because we are too busy fighting lawsuit after lawsuit.
Now they know to start talking about Connecticut. That's right. To be a real deep dive.
I would have to take some CBD for sure that day because the reads would be going off on Connecticut, honey. And really, the reads should be going off right now because first, let's start off with something that we definitely talk about a lot and we want to keep our eye on: trademark infringement. Mm-hmm. Mars-Wrigley is a candy company. We see all the candies all the time. Well, they won their trademark lawsuit in regards to the illegal Skittles branding of the name. Now, child, they done went after people that they found on the internet, selling Skittles infused with THC. Exact marketing, exact candy print, and that lawsuit was filed in 2021. And they're saying that there's illegal retailers infringing on their registered trademark. Mm-hmm. And the court agreed with them, from the medicated Skittles to the Starburst gummies, Lifesavers. And this was e-commerce sites within Canada and the US.
Okay, I'm shaking my head because it's like you ain't have a unique nothing. You know what I mean? You ain't come up with nothing unique. You just like, we're gonna name it the exact same thing. It just, I don't know. That is too close. You got to understand what trademarking actually does. It protects you. It puts a little bit of a wall up to say, hey, you can't use my brand any kind of way. And Mars has been around for a long time. Wrigley's has been around for a long time. Then together, they are very, very big. They have a lot of money to do this and a lot of junior lawyers to send out cease and desist. And the minute that I got into the industry, girl, I was talking about this from the minute I walked in. My very first thing I saw was like a Dabbuccino, and I was like, I'm sorry, I know it's a cute idea. And I'm literally at a trade show, like trying to explain to this very nice young man that this idea is not going to go too far because it is infringement on Starbucks Frappuccino. They designed it looking exactly like that rig looked like a freaking Frappuccino cup with Starbucks like that. This is the part where I be upset with the industry. I know I sound bougie and like, oh, it's for the culture. The culture is not a biter, okay? Tweet that. The culture don't be biting. The culture is inspiring. The culture is leading. It ain't biting. And I'm sorry, when you people be putting Skittles that's laced or with their THC or whatever, one, it winds up on NBC in the whole Halloween segments. And two, it is not going to go nowhere. Your business idea is not going to be multi-million-dollar. Okay? I'm sorry.
I mean, yes, the fact that they're going after unregulated people is also a clear sign, because we've already seen it with Gorilla Glue.
Yes.
We already seen it with Girl Scout cookies. We saw it with Dappuccino, because that was one of our first episodes.
Yes.
We saw these things happening. We saw them having to rebrand and reshape these whole entire things just to be able to participate in this industry. So I feel like the cannabis industry, actually, the people that's playing actually active, whether you're unregulated or regulated, if you're active in the industry, you already know this. It's these people that's coming in like, you want to buy my nerve rope? No, I don't eat edibles made in somebody's home kitchen. It's like when you don't eat the potluck at work, that's what it's like when I don't want to eat your candy that you just, like you said, put THC on top of a Skittle you bought at Costco. I don't know.
That's the problem I have. I think I'm judging you, and I'm admitting that I'm judging you, that when I am seeing you offer me something that shows you didn't do your homework, where else didn't you do your homework? And if that is in the manufacturing of the goods, then that is where it's really going to affect me. Mm-hmm. Me buying it and supporting it, it affects me in another way. I'm supporting someone that I know has no chance of really being successful beyond the pop-up shop.
Barely even the pop-up shop, because honey, they are sending private investigators into pop-up shops, into smoke shops, and they are serving them cease and desist on site. I mean, the cease and desist already typed up. They just got to put your name, the date, and sign and hand it to you to be like, stop selling this. Take this off your shelves. And so this is something that I think people need to definitely be aware of, because the lawsuits, the cease and if they're sending you cease and desist like that, the lawsuits are they're just going to be the next thing after.
That is exactly what it is. And the fact that they're willing to even spend money on private undercover people going to pop-ups and in smoke shops just so that they can figure out all the places selling it is telling you that they are tired of it. It also may tell you that there may be some other connections in cannabis as well.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Yes. Okay. And with that being said, okay, Parallel. Yes, it is a big cannabis multi-state operator, even goes by a couple different names depending on your market, because they acquire, honey. Mm-hmm. And Parallel, believe it or not, was founded by the chewing gum heir of Wrigley's, CEO William Wrigley Jr.
William Wrigley Jr.
I don't know this man, and it sounds like it's from a generation before my parents was even born.
He come from old money, I should say. Mm-hmm.
Don't say that on air. Okay, so back to the Parallel Marijuana Company. Now, 2 to 3 years ago, they really made a huge splash in the industry, coming in out of nowhere in the Florida market. Mm-hmm. And from the Florida market, they seem to just be able to acquire many more dispensaries throughout other states' market, making them a multi-state operator. Well, they did have this huge verge of completing this huge deal of going public. Now, we know that's a big deal in the multi-state operator. It kind of, I feel like, solidifies you a little bit more as a multi-state operator if you go public now, mm-hmm. Especially in the last 2 to 3 years. Like we were saying, all these companies with layoffs and lawsuits, most of them are eligible. Most of them are public. So seeing that Parallel, which became that, wanted to do that, was like a no-brainer. They actually evaluated this deal as $1.9 billion, and he was going to go public with a special purpose acquisition. Okay.
Yes. Close back. That's how Jay-Z's parent company was formed, just so you know.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And that's why we got you, so you can break that down, because this was going to make them industry giants, and they were going to be able to go public. And it was backed by the music mogul Scooter I don't know his last name,
Braun. Girl, you between Bo and Braun, you don't know these men, and we don't either. And I think the biggest story for me was like, wait, Wrigley's got money in cannabis, and in some ways it's not Wrigley's, it's not Mars-Wrigley's, but it is the heir to whatever went down with Mars-Wrigley's. We don't know the details.
Well, we know how they could find it on the internet, honey,
but we know that they also can connect the dots on cannabis as well, in some ways. And a lot of regular consumer packaged goods companies, which that's what they are, CPG companies, they have been looking at the cannabis space. So it was a real moment when I saw that Parallel CEO was the Wrigley's heir. Now, love this story with the $1.9 billion and the acquisition and the big merger that was supposed to happen. SPACs are common. They are a way for a lot of small companies to get quickly eaten up in a deal rather than a joint venture. They get acquired by a bigger company that has a little bit more resources, more funding, more money, and they're able to invest in total. And taking a company public means you can increase investment, because private investment is a little bit of a ceiling. There are still white men getting ridiculous amounts of money. I'm just being real. I'm not trying to act like it is a real ceiling for us Black folks, which is why we celebrate the IPO process. But when you open it up for a public offering, it means you're making all of us, the public, potential investors, which also means you have now public filings for all of your P&L and your bank, your statements, all of those, your income statements, how you're doing on your EBITDA and everything that makes a company, function. We need to know as investors. And so you have to do that publicly. A lot of these cannabis companies ain't ready to do that. Medmen is not ready to do that, even though
that's why they have all these lawsuits. That's the thing.
Because you can see all of the mistakes that they made. They're like,
from Weedmaps to Medmen to Ascend Holdings, all you public Canopy Growth, all you public cannabis companies, we're looking at your investment presentation. We're looking at how much you owe, how much debt you have. This is why you keep being sued.
And we're seeing that people like Canopy Grow, you saying you have all this money, but then it's like, oh, we lost 100 million, or we see the losses. And again, as a person who is fighting to get Black and brown people in the industry, small operators in the industry, disabled veteran, this ain't them. And it bothers me to no end when we start to see just the mistakes they're making, because I know at Target, I would have been fired.
Okay, real fire. This ain't them, but they want us to pass safe. Y'all must can't count already.
Right. But they want more access. You want the access to money.
But you can't even count over 100 mil. Stop it. And so this is what we're going to also stop. Let's go into their investor presentation from February 2021, where Parallel and the music mogul Scott Guy, their company, put together a presentation deck, child, and they were saying in this presentation deck that there was 42 retail outlets would be open in 2 years. You know how much that is? That is a lot. That's a lot, you guys. 42 retail outlets in 5 markets: Florida, Massachusetts, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Texas.
Oh, all the markets that, again, are a little sus.
To 86 stores in 8 markets. And they said that they would be adding, and that they are confident they will win licenses in Georgia, New Jersey, and Virginia. Now, at the time of the presentation, February 21, it was unclear how many stores they actually had open at this point, right? But we did know that they had acquired a $100 million cannabis license process in Illinois and coming up in that April. So they ended up projecting their revenue for 2021 at over $400 million.
Okay.
And this is a lot of different money comments and what happens, but they are trying to say they would profit around 100 million.
Yes, that is.
So they would make it,
bottom line. But
at the end of the day, after everything's taken out, they'll have 100 million that they actually profited of.
Yes, and they get to take into the bank. But that's not what happened.
No. And because it's privately held, actually, we don't know what happened, right? Because we do know a little bit, but we don't really know because it's privately held. But we definitely don't know what's happening for this year either. But based on the revenue sources close, they said that they had to cut their initial forecast, and then they ended up posting that they lost over $200 million in 2019, $140 million in 2020. So they were projecting this to the investors that they're making 400, they'll be able to take home 100. But according to their history, they've been losing money by the boatload.
Wow. Well, not a surprise. And again, not a surprise. I mean, I've worked in enough consulting and when we first started in the industry that none of this surprises me. I think more than anything, it's just that we keep seeing the same mistakes happen over and over again. I also really want to scold the CEOs and the strategy leadership of these big companies that really think you're just going to enter in a market, even the ones that are limited. And because you have one of 6 licenses, like in a Georgia, or one of a few licenses, that it is going to make you money hand over foot. That does not bring the boys to the yard. Your milkshake is not doing it. I'm so sorry.
Oh my God.
But it's true. I'm sorry. Nobody is coming to the dispensaries for that. I think Florida has seen success, but it's still nowhere near how many people really could be shopping. So we are looking at it in a vacuum, operating almost separated from the illegal, unregulated market. But when we think about that market, it's a drop in the bucket. And that's where I think the mistakes happen. The belief that it's just weed, you're going to just have this, whatever it is you put on the shelf, people going to buy it. And whatever the brand is, you can acquire it, it's going to be fine. It's not working. It's not a strategy that's working, and it's yet being employed over and over again. And that's the part that feels a little bit like a dummy mission to me. It's like, you already know that you're not going to fulfill the mission. We've shown it over and over again.
Hey, William, men did this.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. But anyway, basically, it got called off, and then they booted their CEO out too. So now he's the former CEO, and this collapsed at the end of last year, when we was on hiatus. So this is even how they getting away with it so much, I think, because ain't nobody calling them out. This merger collapse. This merger collapse last year, child. We're just now.
Don't let ICE tell you that everybody listening to our day on podcast, and that's how all the secrets get out. I believe we are doing the people's work.
No, I'm just kidding.
I believe we're doing the people's work with our efforts here. But you're right. We was on hiatus, and so we didn't get a chance to talk about it, and means that our fans and our followers did not get to hear about it. But let it be known that they've been having drama for a while at this point.
Well, they can't get no good, authentic opinions without us commenting on it. And really, when the lawsuit happened, not when the lawsuit happened, when the merger stopped, the acquisition stopped, everything stopped, investors was like, what? They're like, it just died. There was no explanation. Well, now the investor group is mad. They said they want their 25 mil and damages back, child. Okay. And they're basically accusing the former CEO, which is the Wrigley's Heir, and other executives that they let this die on the vine. They knew it wasn't going to go through. They didn't care. They took the bag and ran and was like, all right. So it fell through. And the investor group was like, nah, it's not happening. And even though Parallel is Atlanta based, it has a lot of things happening as far as Florida, security frauds, mismanagement, risk, misrepresentation. That's kind of giving Truly vibes a little bit.
Yeah.
And that, they want their damages, and that we will see what will happen. Ultimately, between the misrepresentations, just letting it die on the hill, they're not really feeling it. Also, what Parallel's people said in reverse is that this is just disappointed investors.
I understand, again, these are sharks that are taking bites at other sharks. Yes, hell yeah, these are disappointed investors. So you stating the obvious, but they would be disappointed whether you was fraudulently or misrepresented or whether you was just not doing a good job running a business. So it don't matter. They do have a right and you have a responsibility to explain why things didn't work out. So ultimately, I think that's why that CEO is out. But this keeps happening. And all I can say is, I posted something not too long ago about how all of the Black entrepreneurs had raised about $300 million in funding in Q2 all together. Everything all together. And one white man had raised more than that on an idea that had not even really come to fruition. That is the imbalance. That is the inequity. And so just to be clear that while all of this money is being moved amongst all this crazy stuff that we talked about, all the layoffs and the lawsuits, the lesson for me, honestly, is that Black and brown people still don't get a shot. Even when we run very efficient businesses, when we have a long history of efficient business leadership, we don't get the shot. It's still a little bit of, why should I trust that? And I'm going to go ahead. And these white boys over here seem like they really got it together, and they don't. I just want to say, look under the hood. Certainly do your due diligence, but when you have people who are coming to you that have a decorated background, clear proven implementation, it shouldn't be so difficult for them to raise money regardless of their skin color. But why is it so easy for the people who have a rap sheet of all the wrong things to do, so easy for more money to come?
Ponzi schemes. No, I'm just kidding. But I did see that meme you posted. And I thought that was like from the 80s or something. I didn't realize that was like a real deal thing. That is not a lot of money.
Exactly. We are struggling within minority deposit. Don't get me started. This is why we wrote the banking bills analysis and that paper. So go get the paper. The paper is... Go
get the meme, child. Yes. Get the meme to put it in their face during banking time.
I don't know. I think there are a lot of people who really believe that there are no enemies of bank. That was just an example, but that's why we say increased access is not the same as equitable access. Black and brown people have been struggling for access and still are. And what we've demonstrated is everything that Goliath is doing with all that money. And we keep saying they don't need more access, but that don't mean they won't have it, and it don't mean they won't use it. Look at men. They lose money, they go back for more. They, to me, remind me of a spoiled child that you have them on an allowance, they're going to spend their money, and they're like, can I get some more before it's time for them to get their next allowance, or without doing not nary a chore. And so what I will say is that we should have already learned our lesson, and I wish that as the next wave of investment, when we think about the New York markets, invest in small business, invest in family businesses, and invest in businesses that are operating with integrity. Because all of this we just showed was none of it.
Right. And the whole catch is too that a lot of these companies are public. So that means they are playing, casino with your money that you invested on Robinhood or wherever else you get your little stock coin. You think you're doing it like Wolf on Wall Street style. They are not. They're playing with your money, and a lot of that money is going into lawsuits and layoffs, you guys. So, the tea is hot.
That was a very intense episode. I'm like, it's sad. I mean, but let us cheer it up again. Luckily, we are back next week, and we're together.
Yes, we are together. She only acted hype on the video, y'all. She did not want to come back.
I was in Portland and I loved it, but I am a New Yorker through and through.
Oh, yeah, me too. Oh my goodness, this was definitely an intense episode. We dropped a lot of facts, so make sure you guys check the description box of the video or the audio, however you are listening or watching us. Check the description box because we are going to have links to all these articles, all the lawsuits, all the court filings. Yes.
All the receipts.
Yes, we come with the receipts binder full, honey.
Yes.
And you can follow us on she_blaze on IG, or you could subscribe and share our videos on YouTube at The We Head. Yes, we are The We Head on YouTube, y'all. That's us. And you can always find and listen to us anytime on iHeart, Apple Podcasts, Spotify,
and you know,
anywhere
some
with
of y'all
podcasts.
need to be binging because y'all be asking me questions in my DM. I'm like, you ain't watched the episode before that, right?
Well, yes. And we don't mind if y'all take our little ideas.
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, if they do get a chance to follow you, where they follow
they
you?
can always follow me at ICE. They can follow me at Cannabis Socialite on IG.
That might be a secret IG. You might unlock another one. And of course, me, I'm a lot easier. I'm open and available. You do not have to request. Dasheeda Dawson on Instagram and on Twitter. And I'm firing off. I've been talking a lot of junk lately, but it is what it is.
Okay. Well, make sure you join us again next Saturday around 12-ish, where we will be spilling all the cannabis tea. Thank you so much.
Yay. Have a great weekend.
Bye.